Ever wondered how some people just know what's next? From spotting the rise of AI-powered search engines before they dominate the headlines, to predicting the exact shade of millennial pink that would take over fashion and design, it seems like they have a crystal ball. But what if I told you that predicting the future isn't a superpower, but a skill you can learn? You've probably felt it yourself. You see a new idea, a new gadget, or a shift in social behavior, and think, this is going to be big. But then doubt creeps in. You dismiss it as a random thought, only to watch a few months later as that very trend explodes, leaving you thinking, I knew it. Why didn't I act on it? You feel like you're always one step behind reacting to changes instead of anticipating them. It's frustrating to feel like you're missing out on opportunities. Whether in your career, investments, or creative projects, simply because you can't seem to connect the dots before everyone else does. You wonder if trend forecasters are just born with a special kind of intuition, a future-predicting brain that you simply don't have. This feeling leads us to a fascinating question. Is trend forecasting a learnable skill, or are some people just born with it? The exciting answer lies in cutting-edge research on cognitive training for what neuroscientists call future thinking or prospective cognition. It turns out, our brains are naturally wired to simulate the future. A surprising fact is that the same brain networks we use to remember the past, like the hippocampus and the default mode network, are the very same ones we activate when we imagine future events. Think about that. Your ability to remember your last birthday party is neurologically linked to your ability to envision your next one. When you recall a memory, you're not just replaying a video. You're actively reconstructing it, pulling together sensory details, emotions, and contexts. Future thinking works in the same way. You're taking pieces of your past experiences and current knowledge and reassembling them into a plausible new scenario. This means that your brain isn't just a passive recorder of history. It's a dynamic simulator, constantly running what-if scenarios. Therefore, the ability to forecast trends isn't a mystical gift. It's the result of a highly trained cognitive process, a process of gathering better data, recognizing subtler patterns, and running more complex and accurate simulations of the future. The people who seem to have a knack for it have, consciously or unconsciously, trained their brains to excel at this very task. And the best part, because it's a process rooted in identifiable brain functions, it is absolutely a skill that you can sharpen and develop. So, how do you start training your brain to become a better future thinker? Let's dive into practical strategies you can begin using today to sharpen your brain's ability to identify emerging patterns and anticipate changes. The first, and perhaps most crucial, strategy is to cultivate a state of mindful observation. We are constantly bombarded with information, and our brains have become incredibly efficient at filtering most of it out. To spot trends, you need to consciously override this autopilot mode. Start by paying deliberate attention to the anomalies in your daily life. Did you notice a local coffee shop suddenly offering a new type of plant-based milk you've never heard of? Don't just dismiss it. Ask the barista about it. See if other cafes are doing the same. Is a new slang word popping up in conversations with younger colleagues or on social media? Don't just ignore it. Look up its origin and context. These small deviations from the norm are the seeds of future trends. They are the glitches in the matrix that signal a shift is underway. By training yourself to notice these details, instead of filtering them out, you're essentially becoming a cultural anthropologist in your own environment, collecting raw data that others overlook. The second strategy complements mindful observation. You must actively diversify your information consumption. If your information diet consists only of sources that confirm your existing beliefs and interests, you're living in an echo chamber. Trends rarely emerge from the center. They almost always start at the fringes. To spot them, you need to venture into unfamiliar territories. Make it a point to read publications, follow social media accounts, and listen to podcasts that are completely outside your industry and comfort zone. If you're in finance, read a leading design magazine. If you're a software developer, listen to a podcast about sustainable agriculture. If you're a marketer, explore scientific journals on materials science. The goal here isn't to become an expert in everything. The goal is to cross-pollinate ideas. A breakthrough in biomaterials could inspire a new wave of sustainable fashion. A new social dynamic observed on a niche gaming platform could signal the next big shift in online community building. By exposing your brain to a wide and varied stream of information, you provide it with a richer data set. This diversity, creates the perfect condition for your brain to make novel connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, a process known as associative thinking, which is the engine of creative insight and trend identification. You're building mental bridges between different worlds, and it's on those bridges that you'll spot the future moving from one domain to another. Finally, you need to move from passive consumption to active pattern seeking. Collecting data is one thing, making sense of it is another. This is where you transform from an observer into an analyst. Start a trend journal, either digital or physical. When you notice an interesting data point, that new plant-based milk, that piece of slang, that innovative material you read about, log it. But don't just write it down. Force yourself to connect it to at least 2 other things you've observed recently. Does the rise of this new milk alternative connect to a broader conversation about health and gut wellness you saw on a health blog? Does it connect to a documentary you watched about supply chain ethics? This practice is a workout for your brain's pattern recognition muscles. It forces you to look for the why behind the what. Another powerful technique is assumption challenging. Take a dominant trend or belief in your field and actively question it. For example, in the age of remote work, a common assumption is that physical office space is becoming obsolete. Challenge that. What are the counter signals? Are people reporting feelings of isolation? Are companies investing in new types of hub spaces for collaboration? By looking for evidence that contradicts the mainstream narrative, you position yourself to see the next swing of the pendulum. You're not just following the herd, you're watching where the herd might be turning next. These structured exercises, journaling, connecting dots, and challenging assumptions, provide the framework your brain needs to organize random data points into meaningful patterns and emergent trends. So, is the future predicting brain fact or fiction? The answer is that it's a fact, but not in the way you might think. It's not a magical ability some are born with, but rather a cognitive muscle that anyone can build. The ability to anticipate the future is a direct result of how you train your brain to observe the present. It's about consciously shifting from passive consumption to mindful observation, breaking out of your information bubble to embrace diverse knowledge, and actively connecting disparate ideas to reveal underlying patterns. By feeding your brain the right data and consistently practicing these techniques, you are not just waiting for the future to happen to you. You are learning to read the signs and actively prepare for the future that is already beginning to unfold. You can develop the foresight that once seemed like an elusive superpower. Now that you know how to train your brain to spot the next big thing, we want to hear from you. What's a small trend or anomaly you've noticed recently that you think might become something bigger? Share your observations in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful in demystifying the art of trend forecasting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the fascinating world of cognitive enhancement.